AI consulting. It's something that a lot of you do, even exist as much as like 2 years ago. And basically, it's just developing AI solutions or AI goods and then selling them to people. And it's a totally new thing, and it's getting big, and it's going to get bigger. And it's what a lot of people on Pickaxe are doing. And when people use Pickaxe, a lot of people focus on what our product does. And it does do a lot. But I find that not enough people focus on what you can do with our product. And what we see running Pickaxe is that plenty of people make, thousands of dollars selling subscriptions in the studio, which is the mechanism we give you to make money with. But when we start to see people who are making like tens of thousands of dollars, whenever I talk to someone and I hear they're making like $60,000 or $90,000 or $20,000, they're usually selling goods and services outside of our product. So they're using Pickaxe in whatever sort of system they have, but they're selling it not through our studio subscription. And that is totally cool with us. We want to support that. We want the tool to be a useful tool. We just don't have as much insight into it. And as we find more and more of our customers who are doing this sort of thing and learn more about what they're doing and make our product better for doing that, we want to create more educational content around that. We want to tell people about how to do that. And today we have Johnny Garcia, and he's a Pickaxe customer. He found us as a solution to a specific problem he was developing, or he's trying to solve for a client. And he's been working with our Pickaxe growth team recently. And in particular, I've gotten to know Johnny well because we did some hackathons at universities, and he's developed really cool solutions for universities and a host of clients. And he runs a AI consulting firm, or I guess it used to be a consulting firm. Now it's an AI consulting firm called Virtue. And he's just always up to really cool stuff. He's super fluent in what's going on in the space, and he really knows how to deliver value to people. So today he's basically just going to share what he knows, and we're going to all learn together. At the end, there might be some time for questions. And if you have questions too, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that. And then at the very end, we'll have a cool little offer for anyone who's interested. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Johnny.
Thank you, Mike. That's an awesome introduction. I'm Johnny. I'm the founder of Virtue and CourseWand. And then through Virtue, I work with a lot of different companies that do a lot of different things. I imagine that people in this group might be in verticals ranging from healthcare to home services and maybe even digital marketing or areas that have been around for a while, but are now kind of having this influx of AI being added to the services list. So let me share my screen. And so, without further ado, what we'll cover today is a quick introduction on me, which we just went through. A little bit more background. I'm 24 years old. I started Virtue when I was 2019 with the whole goal of helping businesses with services that they couldn't do themselves. And so at the time, it was a lot of websites and a lot of Google ads, and that kind of morphed into a more software-focused approach, meaning building software for companies and clients. That was mostly due to necessity because a lot of clients we were getting leads for now needed a way to manage those leads, track those leads. And so we'd build CRMs and use Airtable, really simple tools that made super valuable systems for our clients. And so today I'll show you what's been working for me in the past few years in the AI field, and then also some actions to take that hopefully, regardless of what vertical you're working in, you can take some of these tips and use this framework to approach people in your space. So a little bit about me. In 2018, before I started Virtue, I actually had a car detailing company that I started in high school. And what went from basically just cleaning a friend's car of mine snowballed just via referrals into a kind of a full-blown business. And we were hiring people, and I ended up skipping tons of class to run this business and detail cars and promote it, so much so that I became truant. And that's actually That's actually a screenshot of my attendance report from high school. And so I kind of stopped going to high school. I ended up graduating. I didn't drop out, but I kind of stopped going and went enough to basically just get my degree or my diploma, I should say, and get out of there. And now we're selling AI to schools, and not just schools, but universities. And so I think I really want to drive home the point that no matter who you are or what your background is, today's digital economy and with tools like Pickaxe, you can build and sell applications that just years ago, none of us would have even been able to think of selling to anybody. And so the goal of this webinar is to hopefully give you that empowerment and just show you that it's totally possible. So I started with absolutely no knowledge. I was a total beginner at all of this, but knowledge stacks really linearly. And I found that just by learning one more tool or one more framework or one more approach, you start to get these huge increases in returns that you're spending your time with. So today, I'll show you why your own knowledge gaps that you have, right, whether about AI or just business in general, will give you a huge competitive edge. And also, I'll show you exactly how I've sold AI tools without the qualifications to do so. If you do have the qualifications, that's awesome. And this will still apply to you. So in 2025, all it really takes, in my opinion, to succeed with AI is access to internet, a curiosity about others, and the ability to learn new tools. And the reason why I really think that these are the only three things that you need is that, one, I feel as though I'm a bit living proof of this because I have access to internet, I'm curious about others, and I have the ability to learn new tools. And that's really all it's taken for me to be able to go out and sell applications to organizations or anybody that really needs this kind of solution or consulting work done. So we're all here together, again, whether you're new to AI and you're here because you've thought about building or selling AI, or maybe you already have an AI business or just a business in general that doesn't have anything to do with AI, and you're just here to learn how to grow your company and maybe sell it to some larger organizations, or you're a longtime expert in AI. And in that case, thanks for being here. And maybe you're here because you love learning, but regardless, whoever you are, wherever you're here, the process and the strategy that we're going to go over today will serve you, because this isn't a framework that's necessarily AI specific. When I think about what I've done, it's really human specific. And so as we saw early on that everybody was kind of from all over the world in this webinar, doesn't apply to a certain region or a state or a country. I really do think that all of this can be used for people no matter where you are. So what's the process or strategy that I'm going to actually go over? Well, it's just what I do. It's not that crazy. It's just what I've found success with. So not only that, but by being here today, you'll also get access to my favorite sales training video that's ever been made for completely free, along with the offer that Mike said at the beginning of the video. And so this is a pretty big deal for us to give this out. And that sales training video is this. So I don't know if you're familiar with the show Hot Ones. It's a show where celebrity guests are interviewed and are asked increasingly hot questions while eating increasingly hot wings. And so in the process, they get asked really specific questions, and it's an interview. But the reason why I think this is the best sales training video that exists, I can actually just play it and then explain why afterwards.
What's special to you about the Jiva Theater Center in Rochester? It seems like that town...
Literally the greatest questions I've ever been asked. Wow. Seriously. Like, I'm blown away by, I don't know who's working for you, but don't fire them.
What would you say distinguishes...
So what this is a compilation of all of the best questions that the interviewer has asked. And you can see that this is volume 6. There's tons of these volumes on YouTube that people make that are mashups of the best questions that the interviewer asked. And you can see from these interview questions that the guests on the show are absolutely blown away by the interviewer's care and curiosity about them. And I think that this is so interesting in the sales context, because so often we get into this habit of sending, a mass email and wanting to just get the biggest scale possible. But what really works is if you actually show that you care about the people that you're engaging with. And in this case, celebrities are really accustomed to really repetitive questions, as are a lot of prospects that you're likely dealing with in whatever use case or application case that you're working in regards to AI. And so he actually researches his guests way beyond the surface level. And then he makes the subjects feel truly seen, right? And everybody, no matter whether you're a celebrity, whether you live in the United States, France, or Australia, everybody wants to be seen. And so my outreach method is all based around that simple fact. And so the first part of this framework, when selling to large organizations or really anybody, is just to be curious. And so the first question you might have is, well, who are we going to be curious about, or what are we going to be curious about, or why would we even need to be curious? Well, I would recommend that you be curious about everybody that you meet. Ask everybody everything, whether it's a barista, your plumber, and just get into this habit of asking everybody everything. And if you already do this, awesome. You can apply this exact same tactic, you could call it, or just approach to finding out where there's applications you could be building for in the AI space, right? Because the more questions you ask, the more you're going to be able to hear problems that people have, and then you can take notes, whether those be mental or you're actually writing down notes about what people are dealing with and what they're struggling with. And this is going to allow us to go out and actually solve the real problems that people have. And if you do this on a one-to-one basis, a lot of times what you'll find is you can hear a problem and you can build an application really quickly using tools such as Pickaxe, and you can go and show the person that had the problem this solution that you made for them. And there's really not a better way I found to make people feel truly seen and cared for, which really is just a good business practice, in my opinion. So you'll end up, through being curious, just by having more and more conversations with more and more people. And again, this might sound really simple, but it's going to be hugely impactful, especially if you're breaking into the space and you're wondering, wow, how do I, as somebody that doesn't know a lot about this specific space, being AI or building solutions for people, how do I actually get into this and kind of be taken seriously, if you could say. And I think the way that you do this is understand you don't know what the subject matter expert knows that you're approaching, but what you do know is what you don't know. And so you can ask questions that frame what you don't know and allow you to build the application. And these will become the requirements list for the solutions that you're going to end up building for people. With that being said, this is a webinar about huge organizations and selling to them. And so also, what does this human outreach have to do with AI? Well, realistically, huge organizations are just comprised of a lot of people, right? Whether you're selling to one person or a huge organization with tons of people, you're still going to be engaging with people. So my best approach that I've found through approaching large organizations is finding one person or multiple people that I can really do deep research into. And when I say deep research, you could literally use deep research with ChatGPT to find the most information you can about a prospect or a person that you want to engage with and ask questions about and potentially sell or build AI applications with and for. So impact scales. At a large organization, there's going to be way more people that you can actually ask questions about the processes that they currently have. You can find way more departments that might have different needs and challenges. And then there's way more decision makers, way more people that can actually say yes or no to what you're building. And then if you can even just get one person to say yes, oftentimes that means that they will release your application or your solution to the entire team. And then right away, just by getting one yes, you now picked up 20, 50, 100 users. And I found that that's a great way to really grow really rapidly when you're trying to get users onto an application. And if you're a builder here and you've always built applications and you've always thought to yourself, wow, I would love it if other people actually use this. It's really exciting when you can get that kind of fast adoption and fast feedback. And it really helps to make sure that the product is really good. So start looking at an organization that you want to approach, right? Whether it's a university, whether it's a healthcare system, and find somebody there that has a tech interest. So this is a bit subjective, but you can do this by looking at people on LinkedIn and seeing what posts maybe they've been liking or what comments they've been leaving on what kinds of posts. And you can start to get a feel for whether or not people are open to technology, looking to adopt it. And they should also have an influence in that organization, somewhat of a pull, but they don't necessarily always need to have that, right? They could just be somebody that's a really strong team member that's working at the organization that needs some help with whatever their workflows are. Then just research the heck out of them, right? Research everything you can find about that person, and then reach out and ask questions that show you care. Just want to learn about their processes, want to see if there's any ways that you can help them. Because if you're in the space of AI consulting and you want to do this, then you probably do genuinely want to help people. So let that come through in the outreach that you're doing, in the way that you're approaching people. And really find everything there is to find about the prospect. And if it takes you a lot of time to do this, that's okay, right? You can scale these kinds of methods, and there's tons of ways to do that. But initially, to find out what's working and what's resonating with the type of people that you're going after, don't be afraid to spend a whole day looking for YouTube videos and LinkedIn accounts and socials, and doing really thorough research on a person, because again, it's really going to come through and set you apart and show that you care about what they're doing. Now, one way that I actually have done this with Pickaxe is I've built a Pickaxe with all the prospects information on the slides. For any of the slides that I'm going to mention Pickaxe and times I've used it, there's also going to be a link to a tutorial on exactly how to use the certain features that I'm referencing here. So when we share all the slides, you'll all have access to this as well as everything else in the deck. As you can see in this Pickaxe, I just used the knowledge base to upload the entire all the information I could find of the prospects information, which ended up being the entire House government, or the government website for the House of Representatives, as well as a Wikipedia page and some tweets that this person had made. And so once you actually make a Pickaxe with a bunch of information about somebody, the reason it's really helpful is that you can ask questions of the Pickaxe that you made that you would potentially ask that person. And you can start to practice and play around with knowledge gaps that you have, and you can prepare for the meeting and even help design outreach that's really helpful. And this is a faster way to do it, like maybe than reading all of this yourself necessarily. But it's just one step in getting to this more customized and personalized and thorough way to approach people. So I guess we have two of the same slides. So the best script that I've found, you hear a lot of scripts from a lot of people that do outreach. There's always these scripts on LinkedIn. Oh, get my script. This is the script that always works. The best script is just what's true. There's a few screenshots in this slide deck of different emails I've sent that got really positive responses from people who were really not necessarily people who should be responding to just a random person on the internet. But I think that the reason why is because the best script is just what's actually true. What's true about yourself, what's true about what you find interesting about them, how you might have connections. And this can be really anything, locations, or past experiences that you might share. And I would just find ways to make cold emails warmer, right? So usually cold emails are cold. It's like, hey, this is what our company does, and this is why we do it, and this is why we're the best. And do you want to buy our stuff, right? And there's something actually cold about the tonality of that kind of email. And so when I say make cold emails warmer, I really do mean the actual tonality warmer. But when you have a warm introduction to somebody, and to define a warm introduction, that might mean that you have a referral or somebody that is a mutual friend. It makes cold emails a lot easier. It makes them a lot more, it makes warm emails, just outreach in general, a lot easier because you have some sort of trust already developed. So if you have a cold email that you're sending or a cold piece of outreach, if you can figure out ways to make that warmer, whether it's finding a reference that could then get you involved with them, that's always really helpful. And hopefully you'll get responses that says, hey, this is a great email, and sure, here's my calendar link. That's what we're all, I think, aiming for, not just meetings booked, but getting on meetings with people that are excited to meet with us. So this approach is nearly 8 years in the making. I've been sending these kinds of emails since I started the car detailing business. And in this specific case, I actually had grown up in the same area that this office park was in. And I learned how to drive stick shift while I was growing up in that area. And so I sent an email, and I ended up getting 8 to 10 cars that needed detailing immediately from this contract, and then 20 more over the next few years. And so this ended up being an email that was generating thousands of dollars. And all it took was me sitting down and really thinking about what I wanted to say, and how it might apply to the people that I was reaching out to. So it doesn't matter what you're trying to build or sell, but just find an excuse to make cold outreach warm. And so if you can think about all the outreach messages I just showed you, the thing that they all have in common is that I took my time to do my research, and I also knew what I had to offer, but I wasn't dead set on my offering. So I think it's an important distinction, especially as AI consultants, where you're going to be building personalized systems for people, that you know what you're capable of offering, but you're not necessarily tied super, tightly to what you make. And if you have a product offering that you love to offer and you are tied to it, that's okay. But there's a lot of opportunities to build custom solutions for people. And so I'd really be open to that, depending on what the prospect or person you're talking to has and what their problems are in real time. So let's see. If you're interested in more on outreach, check out our school group. It's free. We go more into detail there, and the link will be in here. And yeah, it's been cool so far to have that group. We started pretty recently. So in 2021, I moved to San Diego, and I was having an absolute blast. I was loving living there. and surfing a lot and just really enjoying it. And at the time I was also building Virtue and growing that. And we were starting to dabble more into AI solutions, and yeah, everything was going fantastic. I do have to say, around that time, I started to really consider something, and this was that I was missing something. I was enjoying the work. It was really fun. It was actually empowering. I was passionate about it, but I had this nagging suspicion that I wasn't necessarily fulfilled in all the ways that I could have been. And it's interesting when you're at a point in life where everything's going well on paper, even in the real world, life's going well, but you have this kind of pull towards something else. And I was starting to get that. And I started to realize that, I'd really started businesses to help people. And the people I was trying to help were my clients and customers, of course, friends and family, if they were my clients or customers, and also to show them that they could be able to do exactly what I'm doing. And I was trying to help myself to show myself that I was capable of doing something more than maybe was expected of me or currently feasible. So I had also went from being a terrible student, as you saw by my attendance report, to a somewhat functioning adult in society. And when I was starting to think about that more and more, I was realizing I was probably just one of the lucky ones, right, that got out of the public education in the United States and didn't do that well at it, but then kind of landed on my feet and was okay and able to establish some sort of trajectory that was helpful. And I was really starting to realize that there's some guilt that I had about this, because I don't feel like that's the case 100% of the time. A lot of times when students don't do well in school, the rest of their life could be set on paths that they don't want them to be set on. And there's no right path to be on, but I at the very least think that if you're a young person and you want to do something with your life, we as a society should do everything we can to make that possible. And so around this same time, I started thinking, okay, I should look for the solution to this problem and not just maybe talk about how it is a problem. I should actually apply myself and figure out ways that I could make this better, because I have the power to do that. And so I immediately sent an email to my high school English teacher, and I just said, hey, can I please sit in on a class? It would be great. And by the way, at this point, I'd only built software and served businesses that were outside of the education space. So super new to education as far as building applications for it. But I sent this email, and her name is Dr. Zerwin. She said, yeah, come sit on a class and kind of see what's going on. And so at this point, I was just in that curious phase, right? I was just taking notes on everything that was going on. And this was, I guess, almost exactly a year ago today. And so at the time, some of the notes I took are on the screen right now. You can read through them. But really, I was trying to take note of everything that was going on in the school and remind myself of some of the reasons, because I remembered why it didn't really sink into my brain, but I wanted to experience it again with kind of a different perspective and go back in, because I think that I could be more objective and a little bit less emotional towards the environment if I was to do that. And so here were the notes that I took that day. And I hadn't built anything yet for this application. I was still in this asking phase. And I think that's important, right? You can go and ask, and that can be the first thing that you do. But also you can sometimes build something before if you have some sort of premonition about what's going on. So either one is fine. I would swap out ask and build in the process pretty interchangeably. But as long as you're asking people about what they need, and as long as you're building pretty closely together, I think that you're going to find that selling, which is kind of the third component that I will talk about in this framework, is really easy. So I get this question a lot, and it's always, how do I sell AI? And you can swap out AI here for really any product that exists in the world. And I think if you think about not selling first, if you just drop the point that you're even going to need to sell something, if you can just ignore the fact that, yes, this will need to be sold, and just kind of understand that that's implied and you can handle it later, what you can focus on initially is just being curious and just building for the people that you are serving. And so if you focus on this, to be honest with you, the selling just does itself. So the second part of this framework is going to be building with intent. And when we're talking about building with intent, I'm going to go through one-to-one to many, or what I'm now starting to call B2B2C, which I did not invent, I'm sure, but I've just started saying that a lot recently. Building MVPs that actually are not just MVPs, but kind of blow people away. And then the stack that I use to do all of those things. So how do we do it? Well, first, as we saw in the first stage of the framework, we're going to take notes of the problems that we hear, and then we're going to build. And again, if you want to build a little something first and then go and take notes and then ask people, that's totally fine. But really, the more notes you have and the more you can be cognizant of the problems that people are facing, the better you're going to be when you're building the software, and the more effective that it's actually going to be. So all the while, I was also, through thinking about, and after sitting on this class, I had some notes about the education space that I thought were helpful and good start. But I was also starting to get curious to people that maybe were just a student and never a teacher, or maybe were a principal, and ask them questions like, what did you love or hate about school? What was your favorite class? Who was your favorite teacher, and why? And so just staying in this mind frame of asking as many of these questions as possible, and just allowing my brain. Sometimes if you get curious enough about a subject, sometimes you'll wake up and know the answer to a question that you had when you went to bed. If you can put your focus on a topic or a niche, this will start to happen. And it's kind of one of the magical components of human brains that I don't really know. Obviously, I'm not a subject matter, and but it's really interesting. The more that you can focus, the more that the answers will start to just kind of fall down around you. So I then realized that I wanted to, talk to more and more people. And so I just found the director of a charter school, and I reached out to him. And again, I didn't use any scripts here. I just sat down and I really thought to myself, okay, what is interesting about this person? What is cool about what they're already doing? And how could we complement that? How could we aid them in their mission and help them along their process, right? And so again, the more honest you can be, the more vulnerable you can be in these pieces of outreach, I think the more success you're going to find, and whatever's true to you. And so when you use a script, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And there's frameworks for sending emails, and this really is, I guess, technically a framework for sending an email. But when you're sending a message to another human, it's really helpful if you can, tell that human what you like about them, or what you like about what they're doing, in a way that can only really come from another person. And again, all of this is able to be automated, but start first with understanding exactly what is working for you and for the outreach that you're sending before you even try to automate anything. And so before the meeting I had with the charter school director, I just spun up a prototype. And if all of you are probably familiar with this screen by now, so don't need to go super in depth. But yeah, I just created a pickaxe tool. And at the time, this is what the tool was. And so you can see my instruction set here, not that complicated. The reason why I put this instruction set in is because I had a premonition that the first thing that I wanted to pitch to this director at this charter school was the idea that AI was going to help their students not necessarily get the right answer, but get to the right answer, right? So it wasn't going to immediately give them everything they needed to know, but it would give them a framework, or at least a guideline to getting there, because schools are generally scared of students just cheating more and more. And so they don't want to be the ones that are allowing students to do that. They want students to gain more knowledge. And so the reason why I made this super simple prompt is that it directly correlated to the feature that I was going to offer to that charter school director once I started speaking with him. And then all I did was throw that in a studio and just basically made it so that we could access it on a domain and a custom URL, so that I could send it to him on the Google Meet, and he could use it in the meanwhile. And if you haven't done any of that, I added links here as well on how to actually set those up. And so I showed up to this meeting, and I just asked him tons of questions. And through these questions, I got a bunch of information about the actual problems that his charter school was facing. And while I didn't know much about his workflows originally, he knew very little about AI. So it's kind of this match made in heaven. And I think you'll find this as AI consultants, we have this subject matter expertise in AI that other people are really hungry for and looking for. And if you can find other subject matter experts, what comes of it is this really beautiful kind of conjoining of experiences that allows for the best systems to be made. And it's really exciting because when you combine a subject matter expert in a field with this technology, you get really great outputs, and it's really helpful. And so look for people that are subject matter experts in their respective field, and go and be their person for this technology. Everybody's looking for it. And to be honest, companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and DeepSeek are all doing the marketing for all of us to tell the entire world that this is where the world is going, and this is what people need to implement. So now people are looking for the real ways to actually get it involved. And so we have a great marketing team, as all the people on this call. It's all the largest companies in the world, basically. So we did a deal with this charter school, and I was super excited because I finally had a chance to impact the education system, which I had felt somewhat failed me, but now I had a chance to go actually make a difference and not just complain about it. And so the next thing I knew, I started meeting with this charter school director a lot more, and I started transcribing all of our meetings. And this is a little hack I picked up just through meeting with a lot of clients in general, but I did it a lot with this client and it really worked well for me. So if you're able to do this and with the permission of your clients, definitely try to transcribe all of your meetings. And you can do this with a lot of different softwares. I'll give you a recommendation here shortly. But what you can do is you can build databases of iterative cycles that you're actually using and the changes that you're making and why you're making them based on the exact feedback that you're getting from the client. And this can be super helpful in displaying and portraying some of the value and steps that you're making as an AI consultant when you're building this kind of software. And so I use Read AI. I think it's pretty good. It works for me. And it's like $20 a month. And so it will basically transcribe every meeting. And now I do this with every single call where it's necessary. And again, once you have these transcripts, what you can also do is start to build niche specific databases of how people are looking and thinking about using AI tools. And then you can literally have Pickaxe generate you a bunch of ideas for different solutions to offer. And so it's a great data set to base future products off of, current product iterations off of, marketing messaging, really everything. And so I would implore you to do this if you're not already doing it. And if you're already doing it, awesome. And so the product for this charter school started to really take shape. And in the process, we did some more design on the actual studio and made it look different than it had initially looked. And so this again goes back to that iterative cycle where you can start to actually change and adjust exactly how the tools look and do it in the context of how the client is reacting to what you're building for them. And there's so much value in this, and it's really helpful to I've sold a lot of AI systems with Pickaxe and without. And Pickaxe is great because it handles all the authentication. So it's really fast to get these, really thorough and working products out to people. And then once you actually build them, you're able to manage all the users in the same place and all the tracking, all features that you would have to build custom if you're building your own application. And from somebody who has built those features fully custom, it takes a lot of time. So if you're building in this kind of quick iterative cycle, and then you want it to be a tool that they can use for a long time, Pickaxe is really great for that. And if you're looking to white label your Pickaxe Studio, there's a really great post on the community forum that is linked to right there. And in this iterative cycle topic, I think it's really helpful too that you can just clone these Pickaxe tools super simply. And if you haven't done this before, just go to the tool settings and you can actually just turn on clonable right here. And then if you go above, you can hit clone. And this clone button's actually above here on the first screenshot. This is kind of a bad screenshot to use. So I'm sorry about that. But there's also a way that you can just go to a video and see how to clone your tools. So the reason you can clone these and why it's so beneficial is that you can literally just clone the tool, make different changes to the instructions or knowledge base, and then add that new tool to the studio that you're building for. And then you can have the client just test between tools, right? And you can do this whether or not you want to test between model providers, instruction sets, really anything. In the new release of Pickaxe that's coming out early March, you will have the ability to also see kind of change logs for specific tools and iterations that you're making. And so that will be really helpful as well. And I'll definitely be using that. So then we launched our tool to this charter school, and immediately we had a bunch of users. And this goes back to that B2B to C concept of if you get one person at a big organization, you're able to sell to them, and then it gets spread out among everybody. And then what you get from that is not always will they pay for it. The people underneath at the organization, not always will they pay for it. In this case, they didn't. The charter school just paid for the entire project. But what you get is tons of user feedback. And then you can take that feedback in the form of queries, by the way. This is direct feedback. And that's what's really beautiful about large language models is the feedback a lot of times will come directly through the model in the form of queries and people saying, hey, don't do that or don't do this. You can take that back to the person at the company that you're building for and have really valuable insights on what the people in their organization are using the tool for and how they're using it. So really just becomes a great ecosystem. So why do I tell this story of this charter school? Well, one, it's personal. Find stuff that actually matters to you, that you're passionate about, whether it's, you have a vendetta against a sports team or whatever it may be. Find something that you're curious about and want to actually solve and remedy in the world. And then show what you have early and often. And what do I mean by that? Build something, pretty simple and just show the client it and say, hey, I don't really know if this is what you were looking for, but it's what I guessed you were looking for based on what I knew about you. And a lot of times in their minds, they'll go, wow, this is pretty good. Imagine what he could do if I gave him more information. Imagine what he could do if I gave him the time of day to, transcribe the meetings that we have and then iterate on this product. They'll be really blown away by what you get. And then again, find that one person in B2B that's sticking out like a sore thumb, kind of swimming against the current of the slow bureaucracy that you're selling to. And they can often lead to mass adoption. So let me close this card. We all have access right now to honestly one of the most valuable features ever. And that's simply knowledge bases at large, right? Knowledge bases are so valuable because they allow us to make application and niche specific software solutions that really serve real needs and can help so many different people in so many different ways. And to be honest, society at large doesn't really know how to do this yet. I can tell you from personal experience, this is still something that people are struggling with and don't necessarily know how to implement themselves. So I just went ahead and generated using AI 50 use cases for knowledge bases that I think are all pretty reasonable and viable. And so you can kind of read through some of these as I'm scrolling through. Everybody has their own data that they use, whether you're one person or a 100,000 person company. And when you actually take that data and build knowledge bases with that data, there's so much that you can do and ask of that data. And as all of you know, if you've built applications with knowledge bases, it just expands the functionality greatly of any large language model when you can add data to it. So I would really implore you to think, out of those 50 knowledge base examples, how many do you think are already being done? Probably a lot of them, right? Probably a lot of people are already doing some of these. But how many of those is every single person in that field already doing? Probably none, right? And those are only 50. Think if we could come up with, 10,000 more examples, maybe 100,000 more examples. Or what if we could come up with 1 million more examples where you could use a knowledge base and all the ways that people aren't already doing it, right? So that's a huge opportunity, whether it's a huge organization or, a solo founder that needs one. I personally I build AI for a living, and I have tons of applications that I need knowledge bases for that I haven't built myself yet. So it's, if somebody approached me and actually offered me to do some of this work, I would probably be like, oh, interesting. Yeah. And it's actually one of the ways that we're training and onboarding new team members is having them build internal knowledge bases for us to kind of get a grasp of how to actually use them. But it's a super valuable feature. Whether or not you're using Pickaxe or something else to build them, totally fine. But the value in AI really falls into the context. And to get context, you need data. And realistically, if you go to any given person, you ask them for data that's confidential or personal to them, they're not going to give it to you immediately off the rip. And in the context of AI consulting, you only really need a little bit to start. And so oftentimes you can start with publicly available data to show to somebody how valuable this could be if they were to give you more data, whether it be their customers' information or past order history or something related to the IP of the company that you're approaching and working with. One example of this was we were asked if we could make a tool that could suggest the closest physical class to college students. So the data we needed to be able to do this was just what was the walking distance between dormitories, and we needed to generate all of these and have them be accurate. So we just wrote a little script with Python that could generate all of the walking distances between dorms, and that was going to be our data that we were going to prove out this MVP with. And then once we had that data, as kind of sad as this prompt looks, this is what we did. We put it into the instruction set, and we made a Pickaxe form, which allowed you to put in your current dorm and then what major you were focused in, and then it would show you which courses were closest to you in the respective dorm halls that they lived in. And so again, this just goes back to you only need a tiny bit of data to make something really cool and useful. This is an application that 5 years ago would have taken hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of resources, whether or not it was a developer doing it or a team of developers doing it. The time alone it would take to build something that could automatically suggest to you the best dorms would be a lot longer than it is now. And that isn't to say that this is that advanced of an application, but nonetheless, it's a cool tool that people can use. And so that's what we should be looking for. So we also had in that use case the help of an insider. Again, this goes back to finding that person at the organization who you think is going to be most helpful, and maybe has some tech background, maybe has some previous startup experience. In our case, people are usually pretty active in the university initiatives, whether that means like they go to the hackathons or they put on the hackathons or they host the events or they're in the photo ops with the dean, and there's these insiders that don't know AI yet, don't really know how to do it, but they know they need it and they want to be the ones to be the champions of it in their organization because they know that if they are, then they will be rewarded very kindly via their organization. And so they're looking for people like us to help them. Break down organizations into smaller pieces as best as you can. Really try to find the people that stick out and identify those fish that are swimming upstream and against the current, because those are going to be the people that champion you and the applications you provide to them the most. Ask them a ton of questions, even if it's not related to AI or software. Just ask them questions after question about their workflows, about what they like about their job. You'll find all of these ways you could build a knowledge base for them or a chatbot or a voice application for them. And then just make them stuff for free. Build before even asking about how much they would buy it for. Trust me, you will get goodwill with people that will eventually lead to a lot of success. And then iterate and improve. And once there's a threshold of interest, money is always just going to happen. So don't be afraid to provide value up front. When you build without insiders, let's say that you just approach a large organization and say, I want to sell you something, and then you show it to them. You do a demo and they want to buy your product. Awesome. You're able to charge some money for it or whatever your pricing is, and they buy your product. Great. Well, if they don't buy your product and you went about it by just approaching the whole organization and saying, hey, this is an enterprise sales deal, I want to sell this to you. If they don't buy your product, they're immediately going to put you into the long list of companies that they didn't buy the product of, and re-engaging with them is going to be kind of difficult. But if you approach this a lot more lightly and kind of with this warm outreach, build with insiders, either they're not going to buy your product or they are. But if they are going to buy your product, you're going to be able to charge them a lot more because you consulted with them. The application was way more custom. It was really specific to their needs, and you built goodwill with them. So that's all really valuable in the context of making a deal like this. And if they don't buy your product, you still built something. You might not get a testimonial, but there will be, or you might also get a testimonial, and you can now resell what you just built to somebody else. If you apply the same context with a little bit different data, you could really duplicate this process and go and try to sell it to somebody else. And also, you're going to have goodwill with them in the long term. So if you come back to them eventually, I think that there's a higher chance that you'll be able to resell them on whatever you made for them. So it's literally free to build for someone else. There's a free plan on Pickaxe. And then if you want to know how Pickaxe credits work, it's great. Basically, one input and output is one Pickaxe credit. It makes it really nice because you don't have to actually calculate token costs. There's a tutorial that goes into kind of how that works. And sometimes you're going to get ghosted when you do outreach and build solutions for people, and just in life, it's going to happen. I sent 20,000 cold emails in 2024. This is not to scare you. They weren't all this custom, kind of, hey, I want to be really empathetic to your use case. Honestly, most of them weren't. But with that being said, it's okay. You're going to get ghosted sometimes. When you help people with real problems and you actually make a difference, all the getting ghosted, all the, people that didn't end up wanting your product, it all becomes totally worth it. This is one of my favorite quotes. Each of us in this lifetime will be rewarded for our effectiveness in making the people around us better. I don't think this has ever been more true, especially in a digital economy. We are all going to be rewarded for this same criteria. What will the rewards be? Well, I think that's up for you to decide, depending on what you see as most rewarding. And if you can do this in large organizations or for people that are just solopreneurs, you're going to be rewarded greatly. So action steps, if you're brand new to AI, thank you so much for being here. I would recommend you to just ask questions of everyone you can, right? Ask your friend if you can build them a pickaxe that helps them at their work. Build as many projects as you can. Build them for yourself, build them for other people, build them for fake people with fake problems. Just find anything to build for. You could find a local business that could use a pickaxe on their site, and you could offer your help to them for free. And by the way, you could build it before you even go ask them if you want them to have it be built. And you could say, hey, I built this for you. What do you guys think? I build this kind of stuff. I don't know. Is this helpful? And just see what they say. See what the reaction is that you took the time to actually do that for them. If it has their logo on it, and it has their information in it, they're going to be blown away. Money will make its way to you. Trust me, building goodwill like this can only help you. It cannot hurt you. If you already have an AI business and you want to sell to larger organizations, find the innovators and see if you can dedicate an entire day to one piece of outreach, just one piece. Think like, okay, I'm going to dedicate the entire, the next 12 hours to one person, one email. And not because, it's going to greatly increase your chances, but just because I'd be curious to see how different that piece of outreach is versus something that you send very quickly. And then you can figure out how to automate that kind of customization at scale. Record calls as fast as possible, right? Record calls to iterate as fast as possible. Really, if you get permission from people to do this, it's so useful in building better models and systems and actually showing the value that you're providing to people over a long course of time. And we're all looking for the stickiest customers possible. To get sticky customers, you have to have a sticky product. And to have a sticky product, it has to be really good. So you're not going to get there unless you have iterations. And the easiest way to iterate is to record calls with clients and ask people so many questions that you get annoyed with yourself and be building all the while. Your insider at these large orgs will get your product adopted. I can guarantee it. So if you're a seasoned veteran, show other people what to do and how to use this technology and do it for free. Just see how it feels. We all in this world are, again, going to be rewarded on the effectiveness that our ability to make the people around us better, right? So even if you're providing value for free, it's going to be rewarding to you. I guarantee it. Join communities, whether it's school groups, meetups, whatever it may be. Get involved and teach younger generations how to use this technology, because the younger you are, the longer you're going to have this technology and have to know how to use it, regulate it, deal with it, build applications with it. We need to get younger people involved with this technology at a much faster rate. And if we can do that, all of our legacies will leave an impact. So one more time, ask or build, build or ask, do those interchangeably initially. When you're trying to break into a new space, when you're trying to break into a large organization, just ask and build, ask questions, build as much as you can. And then I guarantee it, selling will come so easily. It'll be like, oh, well, how are we supposed to pay you for this? How much do you want for us to pay you for this? It will be so simple. And so the less you know, I hope today I've shown you, the less you know, the more questions you ask, the better off you are. And so hopefully going from, where I was and have been in my life with very limited knowledge in this space to now selling this technology to organizations and people much smarter than me and much more advanced than me and in tons of ways, subject matter experts in fields that are way more deep and thorough than I could even really imagine. My question would be, what's stopping you from doing the exact same thing in your respective field? And my short answer for you is hopefully nothing. But we're going to open up a Q&A in case you guys have any other questions. And I'm happy to stick around as long as necessary to answer all those. So I'll throw it back to you, Mike.